shoot.
Yeah, sure. Okay, we're not going to cuss, which will be difficult for me
Holy
for
shoot.
30
Holy
for 30
shoot,
minutes.
Okay, I got it.
I'm captured in your eyes. Am I an inch away from heaven? And there's too many sad goodbyes. Am I an inch away from heaven? I'm just a little high.
Anyway, could you just give our listeners, I've known you my entire career, literally since the very beginning.
Sure.
You can tell everybody why it's
Okay.
so cool for me to talk to you and share this with them.
Okay.
Sean.
Hey, everybody. So, hey, Sean, nice to meet you. Chris Herche, Cincinnati, born and bred, went to Miami of Ohio, only mentioning because they're hot in basketball right now, men's college basketball, undefeated. So graduated in 2001, moved to New York, started to work at RCA Records. That's where I met Miss Lovely Charlotte Martin. She was an artist signed to RCA Records when I was there. Started in the marketing department as an assistant. Did that for like a year and a half, and then RCA merged with J Records and Arista Records. Started to work for Clive Davis and Tom Corson, where I was there for about 3 years, running the tour marketing department for J Records and for Arista Records, which was a blast. I was also involved in Clive Davis's pre-Grammy party, considering that's coming up, and the Grammys are this weekend. Might as well mention that. And then went and did new media after that, all within the RCA Music Group. So after about 3+ years or so of doing tour marketing, I moved over and started to do digital marketing, which they called new media at the time. I was really, I guess, the second employee at J Arista RCA doing that. John Salter was really the first one at RCA Records, which I'm sure, yeah, Charlotte remembers, of course.
John was my dad too.
And then Jen Fowler was doing it on the J Records and the Arista Records side. So I was doing, did new media for a lot of developing rock bands, and then left there after about a 7-year jaunt at the RCA Music Group between those labels, and went down to Koch Records, which was the largest independent distributor label at the time. So they had like their own label, and they had their own distribution they put through. They're starting a metal department. So Scott Givens, also who Charlotte knows, that was moved down to Koch Records at that time. And so he knew some people down there. And so I went down there and started that department for digital marketing, whatever year that was, 2008, 2009, something like that. So yeah, I was down there, and then I was there for too long. So I was there for almost 9 years. When I was down there, helped them build their digital marketing department and grow that, and also then started doing some A&R work there, and did digital marketing consulting on the side, helped do Bieber's first digital marketing campaign, helped break a couple of artists on various major record labels with friends and buddies that were managing or signing them. I helped break OT Genesis with Busta Rhymes. I helped break Young M.A. with like Drew Ha and the Duck Down guys. Worked with Ludacris, tons of different things.
Yeah, just a few little things, like you're a lifer. That's why I wanted to talk to you. Keep going.
Okay. And then I also helped break Nipsey Hussle when I was at Koch, which is where I met Shipes. And then Shipes and I ran his indie, ran Cinematic together for 5 years. We got an investment from a private investor, grew that company and sold it to Universal. But in those 5 years, we had a joint venture at Geffen. We moved distributors from The Orchard to In Grooves. We managed T-Pain when he won The Masked Singer. We discovered Drewski Too Funny, or I guess I should say Shipes discovered Drewski Too Funny. I just happened to work there at that time. Worked with him. And then Drew Ha really kind of, and his brother Noah, like they focused more on the Drewski business. What else? Then, as we were approaching the sale of that, I left and went to the Create Music Group, where I have been for 3+ years. August this year will be 4 years. So I'm going to, do that math. And then, what happened since I went down there? So I helped break Ice Spice upon when I first arrived, and then revamped kind of operationally, build a commerce team, build an A&R admin team, helped kind of the workflow, helped them get to the fundraise and then a debt raise, and then Yeah, what else? See, I guess kind of keep fast forwarding. I signed Sublime last year. We had a number one alt rock radio record. I
Congrats, by the way.
signed, thank you, signed a couple of rock bands, like, kind of developing rock stuff, and then also signed Good Talk, so cinematic kind of part two. Shipes and I got back into business together. And so since we've just been signing a lot of fun, cool stuff. He's got some great artists like Judah Weston and this band called Untitled and a lot of fun stuff. It's just
It's
trying to have some
music,
fun and
music.
play with music.
That is because the friends I have in the business, the few I have are like, oh, you're the closest one right now, but you've been doing it since the beginning, since before Torrent, before Napster, before all
Not
of
before. Napster was still when I was in college, but it was definitely still prevalent and something the industry was heavily dealing with when I started at RCA Records for sure.
yeah, yeah.
But I wasn't before, because like before would have been pre 96.
Okay. It just didn't affect my stuff, I guess, until I moved to Universal on the second one. When we were,
I mean, I think it was there, but it probably went after like the hip hop and the pop and a lot of the like, or like the Strokes and the kind of
yeah,
like versus the singer-songwriters, I think. Yeah, that's probably fair.
yeah. So you're literally an authority on the questions I'm going to ask for. I'm assuming, Sean, right? Our
I
audience.
try not to be an authority on anything, but I might have an opinion.
Well, because you have experience, and when we named it Create Survive, I think it's because of Create Music Group, and that's you, where I got the idea. And I knew you were doing a lot of different things because you've worked in all these different departments. You've worked in the touring, you've worked in the digital marketing, you work in operations, you sign bands, you have ears. The big question then, let's start with the big one. Should they be worried about AI in music?
I'm not one to say that anybody should worry about anything because I don't think worrying does anything. I think, as my grandfather said, worrying's like a rocking chair. It gives you something to do, but it doesn't get you anywhere. I think that depending on what people are trying to do and how they're trying to do it, I think that they need to take every kind of thing into consideration. I mean, the industry's changed, right? Like, how nice it would have been to be, the Rolling Stones or the Beatles or Zeppelin or Pink Floyd or Fleetwood, where it's just like you could write beautiful music and it was incredible and like focus fully on that and not have to worry about anything. And then, you have a group of people that help usher that out to the masses, and there's only a handful of controlled outlets. And then, like it was a lot simpler in those ways. Not saying that any of it is simple, but like it is simpler in those ways. But now, I think that it's really difficult because you've got to be, 1,000 different things, right? You've got to do those things. Plus, you've got to create, a massive amount of content for the social media. You've got to be active on the social media. You got to be engaging on the social media. You have to consider for, different softwares and technologies and things like AI and so forth. So, I'm not one at 47 years old. I try not to tell people to worry. It's just like if there's something that bothers you, try to proactively do something about it, right? But I don't think worrying is it.
Yeah, maybe that's the wrong word. A lot of the artists that I work with, Sean included, who by the way has doubled me on YouTube, took your advice and went for it. Like it worked. He's doing great. But a lot of people are asking me if they're servicing as independent artists to the DSP, how can they monetize if they're going up against like music that doesn't sleep, which is AI.
That's like worrying about the things that you can't control though, right? Like it's not about AI. It's like if you're a small independent artist, you're up against everybody else. You're up against the majors, you're up against AI, you're up against every other independent artist. I mean, and we all see the stats of the numbers of how many things are released in a given day, week, month, year, period of time, and so forth, right? So it's like there's so much, and that's kind of the problem, right? Going back to my example earlier, and you were an artist in 1975, if you lived in a city, whether that was New York or Cincinnati, there was, well, let's just talk about rock music. There was one rock radio station, and then like, there was like 3 or 4 magazines, right? There was whether it was Rolling Stone or NME that came over from the UK and Spin, like there was, a handful of magazines, and then there was like MTV, well, not in the 70s, but like then later, like even before it got diluted, but staying in the 70s, a couple magazines in there. It's like, so there would have been the paper, like the local paper, and then like the handful of nationals, whether it's the New York Times or the New Yorker, right? So it's like there was only and then there was a handful of cable stations, right? Like if there was even that, like, right? Like there was like, or BBC One, like, and different things. So it's just like there was much more limited outlets. So if the major machine was behind it and pushing it, Led Zeppelin and the Beatles, whatever, then, and the music was as special as it was, like, like then it was just kind of like almost simpler because it was like fewer controlled airwaves. Now you have 10 different primary social media outlets, however many hundreds of fucking secondary or tertiary or smaller ones. You've got YouTube, you've got how many streaming services are there? How many, fucking Netflix, Apple, cable television, Sirius. It's all these things. It's just like how do you possibly garner any kind of momentum in any of those outlets when there's that many outlets to go and you're only one person and independent? I assume independent artists don't have much money, if any. And if they do, maybe it's $50, $100, $150. Well, how do you spend $150 and be effective when there's that many outlets and that many different people and everybody's interest is that what's the right word, diversified or kind of spread out? Like it's just like it's the impossible task. How does that happen? I think that it's like artists having really and special great music that's unique, that then has some sort of wonderful content to it that speaks to an audience, and then it just catches the algorithm. I mean, like, true story, this band that we just signed, right? Like, they're a 17-year-old kid, 2 18-year-old kids, and a 19-year-old kid. They make music grunge music, punk music in a garage in Southern California and LA. Mm-hmm. They just basically formed a band 6 months ago. They've been a band. They've known each other for a few years. They played music together for a year, but like they really joined as a band and started taking it seriously 6 months ago. They have 10 million streams on their song, doing 200,000 streams a day. K-Rock's already played the song. They already gotten played on BBC One, and like they've not put any dollars into it. We're just now starting to spend dollars, and like they're just learning the business. And you ask them, you're like, guys, how did this happen? Like, what was the magic? Like, how did you get this song to go?
Yeah, that's literally the question. Yeah,
they literally don't know. They're like, I don't know. They're like, don't know. And it struck a chord. It sounds like somewhere between anybody that like loves or appreciates like Weezer or Nirvana. It's so good, and maybe it's the time. Like, I don't know. Like, who knows? We'll never know. But it's like the whole thing of just like, I think people like to sit around and bitch a lot and complain a lot and be like, oh no, what about AI? Or, oh no, what am I going to do? And it's like, shut the fuck up and do something. And it's just like, get out and get going. These poor kids didn't know anything, and they certainly weren't worried about it. And they're just having a good time. And look at this magical, beautiful thing that was happened. It's just like, what people I don't think want to hear is it's not spreading because it's not good enough. And you haven't made good enough content.
You're making me so happy with this answer right now. You have no idea. You're literally backing the art.
Yeah, you just got to make better music.
Yeah,
but
you can't
to be
suck.
worried about the art.
You can't suck. So from an art, Sean, you want to add to this?
You can't. I mean, it's okay to be raw, but it's got to be good.
It's got to be good.
I'm a bit curious about if for this band there was a particular social media that they found to be more helpful, or where they blew up.
TikTok. Everything is TikTok.
Yeah.
It's very singular in that way, right? Like, yes, there's some activity on it's like, the places that are doing the best for this band. Spotify's doing 200,000 streams a day. Apple's doing well, but not as well as Spotify. But Apple's reach isn't as big as Spotify reach, so it's not apples to apples. YouTube's doing pretty well. It's TikTok, though. Like, they're so much bigger on TikTok than they are on Instagram, and it's just what it is. But it's like, that's also like, their demo, I think. But then, you start to get into the conversation of like, where are young people and are they still as much on TikTok and so forth. I do know this. 1991 is back in Southern California. I mean, I went to a show on Friday in Corona, in like deep suburban land, and like went to a literal house party, like of parents who were probably around my age or a little bit older, and they all had their kids in high school together, and there was 5 bands, and they played versions of punk, rock, grunge, alternative, modern rock music for 5 hours, and there were 200 kids there the entire time, and it was just like, it was special. Magic. And it was beautiful, like, and they were all wearing Smashing Pumpkins t-shirts and Nirvana t-shirts and had black eyeliner and like, the same hairdos that were back in the same time period. And I was just like literally standing there and just like so tickled that like 1991 to 1994 type things are back. I mean, I think we've seen rock music coming back for a second, and I just think there's some really cool things happening, right? Like,
Oh yeah.
There's
just got a record deal, and Failure just got signed again to Virgin, and it's a bigger deal than we had on Universal they're getting money. And I said, how is this happening? Literally. And he goes, he said shoegaze and rock are coming back in a big way. Big way. And they reached out to them, and they're in lower to mid-level. They can tour, but it wasn't huge on the last one. And you think it's your age. The reason I'm asking these questions is most independent artists, now I'm independent, Sean's independent, we see what they pump out, right? And then people like Shirley Manson announce they're quitting because they can't sustain it. Then, the Hotel Cafe is moving. They're trying to start up something because they're not seeing independent artists be able to afford to tour or play their venues. So there are some venues closing. That's why there's the shift. I think it's a good shift. I think it's weeding out a lot of the bullshit, because I don't think everybody should be meant to do this job just because they have an internet signal and a digital workspace in their house. It really, do you think this is a time where artists, if they're good, the goal is to be as insanely authentic and better than you have ever been. Best songs, best live show, put your whole heart into it. Stop worrying about all the bullshit, even though it's like, it comes at you. Hey, I was doing this, you know what I mean? That's how they feed the fear to artists, especially when they're posting stuff. You just see it. What do you think about if touring with many of these smaller venues having to close or move, or?
I mean, I think that it's just like, I don't know.
Where would they tour?
I mean, but it's just like, the problem is that it's just like, if I hear the negativity and it's like your things are closing and it's doomsday and it's like AI and it's just like, Charlotte, I just saw 200 kids in a fucking backyard of somebody's house.
I know.
So, the answer is any fucking where that there's people that will care and listen. You don't have to have traditional venues. There's bands like Sublime on this type thing. It's like, come the fuck on, man. It's just it's no different than it's always been. You have to have something special. People have to care. And wherever the fuck that happens, that happens. Do you think that fucking Woodstock was a venue? I mean, what are we talking about? It's just I don't think it's I don't subscribe, and I'm not going to accept that people are like, oh, AI is coming. Oh, the venues are closing. Fucking whatever. It's just cool. Then just go outside and shoot yourself. I mean, if it's just let's be fucking let's be happy and try. Make great music, make great art, be proud of it. If you are, that stuff that you alone by itself have had a victory. Just making great art and putting it out is such a success that people don't even realize that to me is alone taking that step, because so many people, I know 2 people that I am friendly with who make music. We don't even need to talk about if we think it's good or not. They're so scared of putting it out, and they don't have expectations because they like their jobs, believe it or not. And I'm like, you like your job? They're like, yeah. They're like, you make music for a hobby? Yes. And because I love it, it's a cool hobby. That's great. That's a beautiful thing. We should all be so lucky to have like hobbies that we love. And you just want to express yourself for the sake of expressing yourself and putting it out, and you don't have expectations, and your goal is to put it out. Yes. Well, then why don't you do it? And they're so terrified to take that step. So I feel like that if you can create and make art, which is just such a vulnerable thing, and then being able to have the courage to release it, you have already won. If your expectations are higher than that, then your work needs to match it. It's just like, Michael Jordan didn't make his high school freshman basketball team. Try harder. Like if you're gonna let stuff like AI or a venue closing like deter you, then you don't want it bad enough.
Yeah. I agree with you 100%, Sean. Yes. Go ahead, Sean.
I'm just wondering if you think how people find their audience has changed in the past.
I mean, I think that like the audience building is incredibly difficult, and I think that it happens in such a funny way sometimes, right? Like, as we were saying, of like, where's the audience for this band? Like, I don't know, and I'm still trying to determine it. Like, I think that like their second largest market is in Brazil. Well, these are 4 kids who are of various Spanish descent and so forth, and so like, why is that, or why are they really big in Germany? And it's just like, well, I've always known from like, if I'm working with metal bands, like Germany's always been a killer market, but usually for harder music, which is like, this is technically grunge, so that falls in that category. So is it popular in Germany because of rock, or is it popular in Germany because of this band, or is it popular in this Germany because like some influencer that is very hard to find happened to cover it and then got into the right pocket of audience because it was the popular kid at school and high school, and they did something, and then all the kids in that high school listened to grunge music. I don't fucking know. It's like, that's the hardest thing to kind of figure out about these types of things. And the only thing I can kind of say to it is that you have to be consistent of like, I think there's too much effort. You guys are like, I'm hearing a lot of heady stuff, and I know that I get this a lot with Charlotte. Like, it's just like ping-ponging around back up in here, and it's just like, you just have to be consistent and put stuff out. If you have music and it's great, believe in it, put it out, be consistent, and then closely pay attention to any like indicators at all. So if you have, an average of 50 views a week when you drop something, if something over indexes and does 100 in a week, that's double what you normally is. Well, that means that probably is because that is being received twice as well for some reason, and you need to look more into that, and maybe then kind of circle back and like make more cuts of that song, or versions of that song, and like video content, not recordings, right? Not sound recordings, but like create more types of video and output and focus around on it. Or if like you're doing something and like TikTok on one record starts to really stand up, because it's like, case in point, if this band was only paying attention to like Instagram and Apple Music, they would have missed all of the activity on Spotify and TikTok, right? So it's just like, it is your responsibility to be consistent in releasing songs once a month, building up into and out of each one. And then upon doing those two things, if you can, spend a little bit of money and then closely watching where things react and how things do, right? If you create 15 pieces of video content and then retrospectively like look back over 2 weeks, and you're like, I put up 15 videos on my Instagram, like one a day-ish, give or take. One day I put up 2. And the 2 best performing video, and you tried all different video types. You tried like acoustic types, you tried like high professional like looking music video, or like maybe you cut up your music video into different parts. You tried, instrumental, but you tried all these different types of things, right? And the 2 acoustic videos were the 2 videos that performed the best. Well, you're a fucking idiot if you don't make more acoustic videos and pay attention to that and like lean into that. It's just like, that is your responsibility to like always constantly like retroly look back. I think that what you guys have to get off of is the fact that you have to need somebody else, that you need a record label. Like, I would argue you don't. Like, obviously, like, I have worked with and worked at, but like, need, like, no, like, you have to like look at the band that we just signed, right? They were doing 200,000 streams a day. Dumb math, if you're doing 1 million streams, depending on the distributor and penny rate that you have, it's $4,000 to $6,000 a month.
That's so good.
I was wondering,
Okay.
because one thing that you brought up that I think maybe a lot of artists don't realize is, or are afraid of, is repeating themselves, right, with content or repeating the same song, sending it out to social media repeatedly. So I was
Right.
wondering if you could give an example of one of these newer bands of like maybe how long you would spend promoting a song and how many times you would send
I don't
that
think
song
there's
out there.
Yeah, I don't think there's firm answers. I think when you've reached the full like penetration of the song, there's kind of like if you look at the stock market over the course of time, that in a perfect world would be what an artist's career is going to look like. It's not possible or realistic to be up every day. Just not.
Mostly
You're gonna
down.
have no, like you're just gonna have ups and downs. So like if you like in the screen, right? If you start down here over the course of time, if you zoom out far enough, your career is gonna grow over like this, and it's gonna look like a straight line, kind of cut up at a 45-degree angle from down here to up here, right? You know, like, but if then you closer that you get, you'll see that there's like many ups and downs, and even further, and kind of depending on like in that or have blips of where things will happen from things of like natural consumption patterns of like Sunday music consumption is down comparatively to Friday, which in when is up. Why is that? I don't know. I can start to make fucking assumptions. People are running errands and going to church and cleaning their house and God knows what on Sundays. And then on like Fridays is when all the new music comes out. So if you've been waiting for such and such news album to come out, you're going to go there on Friday and play it 2 or 3 times that day or whatever over the course of the weekend. And so there, I think there's like natural like consumption happening. And I think that it's really important to just try to find your audience like the ways we were talking about before, be consistent, build in and out of it, and then see how things kind of react. But like the problem that most artists have that's the hardest thing to get over is like you need some money. So it becomes hard. If you have zero money and you're making it, those are the artists that I really feel bad for, because it's just like if you don't have a computer and you're right, and like that's a given to like be able to get it, or if you don't have a phone, you're you know, and it's just kind of like, and that's not necessarily like a given for people or things to have. So I think there are some barriers to entry, but I think if you have a computer, you got the basic level of stuff there. And then you, I mean, Charlotte, you know very much about gear, and Sean, I assume you do, sitting in front of a harp and piano, like, you know, that you can kind of like, and the barriers to entry, but you probably need at the bare minimum of a couple grand to probably get into the like mix, like, right, of where you can even kind of lo-fi record stuff, you know, at home. So that becomes like a hard barrier to entry. But like, once you have that, there's self-distribution platforms, there's service distribution platforms, and then there's high service distribution platforms. And I think it's just a matter of like where you are in your scope, who's appropriate for you for that time. And if you build the content, right, it's like all of those things have to be in mind towards it. And so it's just like, if you don't have money, then it's going to be on your cell phone, and that's okay. But then it needs to be like different things of where it needs to be interesting views, text overlays, compelling and engaging, you know, and it's just like, not everything's reaching its full. That's the downside of these like terrible platforms, is it's like not everything reaches your full audience. If I have 5,000 people that follow me, it should be fair that if I post something, that all 5,000 of those people would reach it equally. Those are my 5,000 friends or fans or whatever, and I post something and they should see my content. But that's not what happens anymore, unfortunately. You have to pay to reach your full thing or post it a lot. And so it's like, that's where you start to get into the need, or the people saying that you've got to post stuff regularly, right? Like, where does that come from? That comes from because these places are smushing down your content to get your full reach, because they want you to pay for it, because it's ultimately like a company. And like, you know, I think that's where people kind of forget that like these are all like companies, and they have an objective and overhead and, you know, taxes and all this stuff to like operate, right? Like, and so, you know, they're smushing down their content because they're ultimately ad-based platforms that are making money off of that. That's how their business works, right? So it's like, you've got to just have tremendous amount of output. And that's truthfully where most artists fall short. So it's just kind of like, you go and you look at it like, 2 years ago, there was a band called Games We Play. I think it was 2 years ago that I really fell in love with. I fell in love with them because I was laying in bed and scrolling like we all do, with all of the, like, my volume off because I was sitting there watching TV with my wife, right? And I was like compelling enough to stop on the singer because he's this long-haired, emo-looking, overweight, shirt-off, funny-looking dude. He kind of like if you would have stopped and looked at John Belushi and you'd be like, oh, like, or a Chris Farley kind of type, right? And so I stopped and I was like, this is interesting. And I turned up for a second and like, I fucking love the song. The song is because he had this little like, it wasn't a dance in the sense of like a TikTok dance, but he just kind of had like funny little movements or things that were like, you could tell where his performance sticks. Like, right, when he's up on stage and like does certain parts of the song, like, like he does like a hip thrust or whatever, right? Like, and so he's got these like funny little dance moves and it's very charming. It's very cute. And the song's catchy as hell. It's like some old, like, as good as the old Fall Out Boy songs or whatever, but like, back in the day. And so then I fell in love with this band. I went on to listen to their album. I went and paid tickets to see him live and so forth. But like, he infiltrated my feed and my Discover page because he was every day doing that same thing, that same shtick in different places. Like, he performed, he had a show, he'd do it during the middle of the show with like fans in the crowd, and then like, then he'd do it on the tour bus, then he'd do it like in the rain in the parking lot at a Walmart, and then like fucking in the shower one day, like, maybe he wouldn't show whatever, but like, he's like every day, different places, random, compelling, weird, because it's like, that's what I assume everybody's doom scrolling with the volume off while they're doing something else, while they're working, while they're sitting in traffic, while they're sitting next to their spouse, whether they're,
you're right,
whatever. So something having a beautiful voice doesn't do it.
Yeah.
So that's why you're seeing a lot of people now with these text overlays. Like, I got hit one. Strokes are one of my favorite bands. I worked with them also when I was working with Charlotte, and I love them and everything about them, right? There's again, audio off, video. If the Strokes were to make Spanish music, I stopped immediately and was like, well, I'm going to listen to 5 seconds of this to see if this is worth a shit. Because it's like, that hit me. Because it's like, I'm a Strokes fan. I think that's interesting. So I stopped. I listened to it. It's fucking great. I've talked to the band. Who knows? Maybe I'll do something with them or not. But my only point is that like, they got me to stop. And so I think that you have to just have
text overlay, just so I'm clear, because of just the text.
That's all.
Yeah, and it's very simple and direct.
It's very simple and direct. It's just like if the Strokes were to make Spanish music, like, oh yeah, word, like, okay, like I speak to that. Like, I'll give you another case in point, and this isn't a social media thing, right? Early pandemic, there was press headlines that were on like Twitter and social media and all this shit that literally said the sons of Metallica, Stone Temple Pilots, and Guns N' Roses are in a new band together. Anybody around my age that likes rock music is going to fucking take 30 seconds and going to be like, is this worth a shit or not? You got me. Like, yeah. You got 30 seconds of my time. Like, those guys in a band together. It was Slash's kid, the bassist from the new bassist. So it was kind of like wordy. It wasn't really an original member of Metallica. It was a later member of Metallica, but that's fine, but still true. But then it was Scott Weiland's kid. And it's like, I worked with Weiland and Slash. Huh?
He has a kid named Wolfgang. One kid named Wolfgang. Is it that kid?
Yep.
I know Scott's widow pretty well. So.
Oh, Mary?
Yeah.
I love Mary. Tell Mary I said hello.
Next time I go outside, I will.
All I am saying is that, like, you just have to keep trying, and you have to be aware of what's going on. And I don't think enough artists, because it's like you either have two choices: blaze your own path. Fuck everybody, whatever your best intent art is. Or get on the fucking bus.
Yeah.
Follow exactly what everybody else is doing. So if there's like everybody's doing 47 videos for every song release and it's short form content and it's 10 of them are text overlays and 10 of them are shot this style, it's like, go ahead and jump on that damn bus and give it a go and be consistent and try.
You have an amazing success story with E the Prophet, who I am a fan of now.
I don't know if I would say it's an amazing. I think I'm very proud of it, and it's a successful business that we have done. I hope that there's more of a ceiling to go, but I feel very proud that I found a young man from Cincinnati, Ohio, who's from who wasn't given everything, and we built up a really nice business, that him and I, participate in, and I'm proud of.
I mean, a lot of the artists that I work with, produce or just mentor or train, they just want to try to monetize it. And for him, like you did that, he's not on, all the late shows yet, and doesn't have, but he's doing business. He's selling tickets. He makes money on streams. To me, that is beyond successful. Without a label, that's insane. Like, I would love that for me, Sean. So, question about this. Do you still think that model works? Just less of the social media, consistent, every day, pay attention, make sure your art is amazing, figure out the live piece when you can figure out the live piece. I think that's what stumps people, honestly, Chris, because where they come to me like, where am I going to play? I don't know. We got to figure it out. That's what I say.
What's wrong with, like, if you're in Los Angeles, people are outside and on the beach. Like, what's wrong with going to, like, that? What's wrong with, like, sitting out in front of a store and busking? Like, there's just, like, I don't know. I'm just like, there's nothing wrong with all sorts of different things. I mean, you could literally, like, just say, hey, like, you could create your own show. If you're in Southern California and it's nice out, you could say, Saturday night at 7 p.m., I'm going to make a bonfire and have free wine and beer and going to be at the end of pier whatever, and sit there and just play music and let your friends show up, and then hopefully other people or people walking by or this and that. You can create moments or, different things. I mean, a lot of stuff that E and I were doing initially, were kind of like local, tapping into the community type things, like, but I think that it's like, start wherever the momentum is. If it takes you a while to get to your live show, it takes you a minute to get to your live show, and that's okay. Like, but if you can build consistency online first, and then build that demand to have some returning revenue, to build yourself a business, to build up your publishing, I mean, is definitely where you got to start. I mean, everybody's got to start there. There's got to be some music out. There's very few bands that can perform. I mean, sure, it's happened. It's definitely happened, but like, you got to build up a little bit of momentum and have some music outs for people who can come and enjoy it, or that they're fans of. I mean, what else are they going to come and see, right?
That's a really great idea, because the few promoters that I know who are like freaking out that they're going to have to close, it's mainly because people aren't drinking. It's not necessarily because
nobody drank. There was not a kid drinking, which is like so wild, because it's like you go back to a bunch of seniors in high school at a house party back when I graduated, and like there was a keg or wine, or kids were drinking, like, whatever, like it was a random mix of stuff, but it was like kids were drinking basically whatever they could get their hands on. There was not a kid drinking. I didn't even really see much vaping. I saw like one or two kids that were like going out into the drive, probably because their parents were nearby and they're like maybe they might have been hiding, so like maybe that's why there wasn't vaping. I don't know. I was thinking about it, because I was like sitting there and just being like, these kids are all, I mean, who knows, maybe they got high as shit out in the street 10 minutes before, like I don't know, but like I didn't see, like, my spidey senses are super high and all that shit. And I know what it looks, smells like, and so forth, like, so it's like I didn't see any drugs or drinking. Not saying it maybe wasn't there, the kids maybe didn't do it somewhere before they came because parents were around, maybe, don't know, kind of think most of them were sober. But I don't think that the kids are drinking, but then that doesn't, but like, that's where people aren't thinking, like, cool, people aren't drinking anymore. What is Diplo doing? Diplo's got 15,000 people getting together at 6 a.m. and running, and then he performs at a fucking DJ thing afterward. He's called Diplo's Run Club. Like, it's just like,
people are getting creative. They're getting creative.
They're doing all these run clubs because health is up and all of this type of stuff, and he's been running, so they just do run clubs or day parties or different things. You just have to figure out a different model or a different path. Like, that's like that. I mean, if I stayed in the same principles and ideas of doing business that I started in 2002 and was still trying to do them today, it'd be so out of business and irrelevant. It's just like the ground shifts every day.
And the most important thing I want to get, how do I say this? Because I'm going to try to put all these together. It's hard to tell what the future of music is. But what do you think the top 3 most important things? Because Lindsay, another artist I'm working with, and she's just really getting started. if she had to do three things, she can already play in Atlanta and people will come. What would you tell any new artist that has good music, that can kind of play locally, like Sean? Got a little bit of streaming success. Just keep the path, find something unique to keep blowing it up.
Yeah, I think like make sure you truly have a vision of what it is of the art you're making and who you're talking to, right? Like, I think part of the reason that certain artists, right, whether it's Tyler the Creator, Billie Eilish, or Taylor Swift, or whoever, they're making music that kids felt. Like, I loved so much of that music that I loved from growing up because I either fantasized about it, right, like stuff I didn't do, but like in my dirty little dreams wanted to do or thought I did, or like kind of like aspired to be, right? Or it was like things that really, like when I was going through a breakup song that were just like said all the things I didn't know I felt, but like when I heard them I was like, yep, that's exactly how I feel that way, that's exactly, and then you play it over and over and it becomes comfort. Like, I think that's what so much of music is just like making sure you understand your brand and your vision. I don't think many artists really truly do. When you talk to them a concept about a song or an album, you're like, well, what's this about and what did you make it for? And they're like, I don't know, like words that sound good together on a melody, and you're like, okay, like then like that just is like, and it's just that thing. So I think a brand and a vision of what it is that you're doing and who you're talking to, being consistent, and I think also paying attention to not only what's going on in the industry, but what's going on in your own musical career as far as in who's reacting and where are they, and then thinking creatively. Like artists are lazy and they're not being creative and doing cool shit. How many, you look at a year and it's just like it becomes hard. Like I love this shit. Like fucking love it all day. I'm trying to be as optimistic about all of it as possible, but like really fresh, unique, cool, super neat things don't happen that often. And like, did they ever? Maybe not, probably not, maybe not as often as I remember. I'm condensing like 30 years into 5 in my brain or something, but like, I don't know, I just think it's all kind of the same thing. I think like, why is rap music down? I think it's because it's the same thing over and over fucking again for the most part. It's just like fucking the same message, basically the same song, same BPM. It's the same. And it's just like, again, it is just like, there's nothing interesting that's happening. And I don't think that's because I'm getting older, because I still love rap of all different types and so forth. And though maybe I'm not as young or, relate to it as much, but I think that there's, I don't know. I just think there's, but that said, like, I've been on a very deep rabbit hole of like grunge and alternative bands that I didn't know existed 2 weeks ago. So it's just like, there are wonderful things. I was in a deep hole of like listening to bands that have 10 and 15,000 monthly listeners on them, which are these like, relatively speaking, very small little like bands, and just like, deep in it. And so it's just like, there's still great stuff there. It's just a matter of if people care. And like, people don't have time to get that granular and find stuff. Most people are busy, have things going on like Charlotte has going on with 2 kids and or a job and or a this and a that. And it's just like, they don't have extra minutes in the day to go and do what I did a couple nights ago, where I was like sitting in airport and spent several hours going down like a rabbit hole on like socials and streaming services to like find new rock music. Like, that's
why, by the way, you are so successful.
Maybe, but
you are.
But I just don't.
Player, and it's because you actually care. You care. You're a fan. That's where it started for you. You love music, and
I do.
This should encourage artists, because there's people in your position who have the power to launch careers, and you have the financial backing. You're just this fan looking for cool shit. You love it.
I was just boarded in airport and super excited off of seeing some rock bands, and so I was just kind of on that mode and was just like trying to find other interesting things to listen to and to look at. And so it's, you just got to be consistent. Like, you got to be consistent in making something great that means something, that talks to some people. And I think that there's all sorts of opportunity there. It's just like people don't want to accept it. And then when that doesn't happen, I think that the easy scapegoat is like, well, AI and labels aren't signing anybody. And it's like, yeah, but that's probably not the reason that your shit didn't work.
Thanks everybody for tuning in. Make sure to like, follow, subscribe if you want to hear us chit chat about how we're going to make a living, or how we are making a living. We're already making a living, and it's hard. See you next time.